y dos, y dos, una, y dos, una, y dos.
Hello, and welcome to Cortesnyc Livestream podcast. This is a bi-weekly show broadcasting out of New York. It is hosted by myself, Cortesnyc, and
Carla de Puerto Rico.
And this is a podcast where we share our views about art, creativity, and city life from a Latino perspective.
On our first episode, titled Family, we're going to be talking about growing up in a family of artists. Also, we're going to be sharing some stereotypes and cliches of Latino families. Y vamos a hablar español.
So let's get started. All right, well, we picked this topic because both of us obviously are artists or creatives. And I thought it would be a good subject to start with because my family life, you know, I grew up in a family of artists. To me, art always seemed very normal. It seemed like something that you just do. It didn't seem like something that you would make a career out of or that you would try to learn to do. It just kind of happened. You just acquired the skills or the talents. You just used your talents and whatever happened. And in your family, you would have people that were good at drawing and you were good at drawing, and it was just a matter of what they were good at drawing at. You didn't really compete. You just kind of, you know, acknowledged that everybody had their different style of art, and you know, you just flowed with it. I know, Carla, you sing.
Yeah.
And I know that in your family you must have had some creatives, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think my father was into music, kind of. Some type of music. And from my father's side also, like my uncle, my brother now, he's starting his career as a reggaeton singer.
Oh, there you go.
So even though we were not that close, I guess that transferred. My mom was always also into doing her little crafts and stuff like that, which I think maybe it had something to do with me singing and my interest into singing and music.
Yep. Well, in my family, so I'm a visual artist. For some people that might not know me, I'm a graffiti artist and I'm a graphic designer, an illustrator, and I also play music. I play guitar, I produce music, and I enjoy, you know, audio art as well. Mm-hmm. But in my family, I grew up knowing always that my grandmother and my uncles in Colombia, they design jewelry. So they had a jewelry shop, or in Spanish we say taller. I don't know how you would say that in English, but it's a shop, I guess. But they would make custom jewelry. They would work with silver and gold and emeralds. And I remember my uncles, they would sculpt out of wax. They would make the little figurines. They would make little shapes. You know, it's very popular in Latin culture to have like religious symbols. So they would make like little Jesus faces and they carve it out very carefully. And then they would make the mold, and that mold would be cast. They would make the gold out of it, gold rings or gold pendants. And then they would add the jewels and all the other stuff to it and whatever else. So I remember growing up thinking, oh wow, like my family in Colombia, they're artists. They know how to sculpt, and I would see their drawings also, and I was like, wow, they draw and everything. But I never thought much of it. Like I said, I just thought that's just what they do. It's natural. Then in my immediate family, my father, you know, I grew up knowing that my father was an architect. That was his career. But he also played guitar and he sang. And I remember just listening to my father play guitar and sing is where I first started understanding what real, like having your own voice is, what like really creating art is, touching somebody's soul, let's say, with your voice and your skills or your talent. I think I learned that from my father. My mother, she kind of was a late bloomer. She always had talent in the kitchen, and she expressed herself in different ways, and she was a great storyteller. She'll sit there and she'll talk to you and tell you a whole novela. But later on in life, when I started becoming a career artist, I started seeing her develop her own crafts, and she became very good at sewing and painting. She does like these little decorative pillows and
she's also like very into interior decor.
Yes.
Right? She's always like has a touch of style, and
Oh, yeah.
and you can go to her house and everything is beautiful. Like everything is well placed, and if you tell her, hey, can you help me with an event, yeah, she can give you ideas for sure.
Yeah, and she'll make a lot out of nothing.
Right.
She can take
Right.
very little and make a lot.
Yeah, which is, it's very impressive.
Yeah. I remember from her always learning. She used to tell me, I used to complain and say, on a weekend or something, why can't I just wear jeans and a t-shirt, or why can't, and she would be the person to say like, well, just because we're broke doesn't mean we have to look broke. And I think that mentality is, you might see it one way, but I always saw it like she just had a vision. She had a view for what she thought you should look like and what she wanted to see. You know what I mean? And that, some people might call that a stylist. You know what I mean? You might get paid as a stylist.
Yeah.
Doing those kind of things for celebrities. But I mean, I guess those are the artistic and creative touches that she showed. My brother is another subject. He's also another late bloomer. My brother, in his later years, in his 30s, he really started getting into guitar playing. And in his 40s, he really became expert. Like, he can pick up a song, pick up the chords very easily. He dabbles in singing. I don't think he gives himself the credit to really learn. Or maybe he doesn't have the patience. I don't know.
But he's very into sound, which is very impressive, because he can just listen to a song and then automatically he can just play the chords, and you're good to go. Yeah.
And he now, my brother's a couple of years older than me, and now he's got a group of friends that he plays with. It's a group called Los Tren, and they are flamenco artists. So they have gigs around the city, and my brother will join them when possible and play along with them. And they perform this kind of like gypsy flamenco music. And then now with you, Carla, like my brother's been practicing and playing, and using your voice as well to blend the two together.
Yeah, which I didn't thought that knowing all songs, all Latino songs like boleros and stuff like that was such a big deal, because I always saw it as part of my culture, right? In Puerto Rico, we always sing boleros. Every single group you are is part of the culture, and it's very cultural, and they always want you to sing these songs. So I never saw it like it's something important or it's something special. And now coming here, when I sing those songs, everybody's like, how do you know them? They're so old. And I'm like, well, I grew up with them.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another part of growing up in a creative family, that maybe you think is not part of creativity, but it helps you grow your knowledge into different things that you didn't thought it was part of what you're going to become or what you like or in the future.
Well, I mean, so let's just diving a little bit into how did you learn these songs?
Right.
I mean, it sounds like it's something you kind of took for granted. You didn't really think of the bigger picture. That's somebody who's not you, and not in your immediate community would look at it as artistry. But how did you learn those songs? Like, how did you first develop your interest in singing?
Well, I was in school and I was part of the chorus of the school, and we basically will sing in different events, and also like it was a Catholic school, so every time they had a religious ceremony we will sing and stuff like that. And over there the songs were always about God, but also some cultural songs, which means either boleros or songs that talk about Puerto Rico. So I'm from Puerto Rico, that's why my name is Carla de Puerto Rico. So I think that was the first way. Then when I was in school also, I was part of a group of trovadores.
What's a trovador? Because I learned that from you. I never really heard that before.
So trovadores are singers from Puerto Rico, but they're mostly from the mountains, so from the countryside of the island. And basically what they will do is they will tell stories, or the majority of them improvise unfortunately, I didn't got to learn how to improvise. I have a good friend, Deborah, which she's great, and she does this like instantly. Just give her 10 minutes and she can give you a whole strofa with 10 sentences and everything makes sense. But the trovadores, usually what they do, so they'll tell a story with the whole song. And trova in Puerto Rico, right, is music from the countryside. It's music that it was used back in the day to share ideas, share stories, because they didn't know how to write or how to read, but they knew how to mix all these words together and make sense of it. I don't know how, but they did it, and then that's how it translated to us in the city, and then after a while it became part of our culture. It's part of the history of Puerto Rico and the music of Puerto Rico. So right when I became a trovadora in school, they didn't only teach us or taught us about the music with the cuatro and all that, but they also taught us about the boleros and about the old songs. So I think that in that group is where I learned a little bit more about how you sing those songs, what songs are they. We also record, we had an album and everything. We had a little CD, which I still have. I was like 10 or something, and the picture is horrible, but that's how I think I started. And another thing is that my grandmother, she used to listen to music in Sundays. So Sundays, it was a show that it was called Canciones Inolvidables.
What?
Yeah, unforgettable songs.
Yeah.
So over there, they will play like all the old songs, like boleros, merengues, everything was super, super old. And she will always play it. So, and then I was at home on Sundays with her. So I think that also like I don't know, like my ear was listening to all these things, and from one time to another. So I learned all these songs and all this. So I think that's how.
I think those. It's funny. So you're learning those songs growing up, and little do you know, but those songs are the songs that are like the standards if you go to a Spanish lounge or a Latin lounge, or if you're having some acoustic sessions with guitarists. Those are the songs that they want to hear, or that are so familiar that they're like comfort songs. They're songs that remind them of growing up listening to Spanish music or hearing somebody sing live, and they get like. I think also these are songs that a singer can cover and express themselves with, because the lyrics are very universal love songs or romantic songs, and they have lyrics that you can interpret different ways depending on the singer. They can kind of play with the lyric or flow a little bit, and so I think they're good cover songs. So that's another thing that when you came to New York and you started singing a bit, and you realized I realized like, wow, it's really all the stuff already. I think that makes a good transition into trying to do some covers, I guess, and express yourself and continue to practice your singing.
And in your case, going from your father was an architecture?
My father was an architect, yeah.
An architect. So going from that to evolve to graffiti and to evolve into drawing, how did you got that like inspiration from him and then continue to do your style? Well,
so growing up, my father was an architect. He worked for the Port Authority. He worked in the World Trade Center, and his whole career. And I would go visit him in his office. I would see his blueprints and his sketches. I would see they used to call them maquettes, I think. Where they were like little mock-ups of 3D, constructed mock-ups of buildings they were going to build. They don't do that anymore. Now everything's computer. But back then, I would go and see him building these things. That kind of inspired me to build things out of cardboard, and if I had my little action figures, I'd want to build sets for them.
That's another thing I was thinking, that when we were children, we get a lot from our imagination, and we don't even know that it's building up our creativity.
Yep. Yeah. So seeing my father, always drawing and doing that visual art. When I grew up, I knew I wanted to do something because I would draw and I would sketch my parents or my toys and things like that. And then I think once I got into high school, I was thinking I was going to be a cartoonist, a professional cartoonist, and blah, blah, blah. But then in high school, I got into graffiti and street art because I'm from New York, and it was all around me. And it was what caught my attention when I was riding the train back and forth to school. And when I got to high school, I never had a big space to paint or draw, so I wanted to have a big area to draw, but I wanted to express myself on a large scale. And that's where I discovered graffiti as an option. I can go out and find a wall and paint large. My father did not understand it when I first wanted to do this. He didn't understand what I was doing. He didn't get why I was doing that. Him coming from Colombia, he didn't really understand anything about the subway art culture, except for the fact that it was illegal in the 70s. So I think that he always thought I was going to be a graphic designer and that I would study graphic design. Instead, high school and then college, I got into fine art. I got into painting and drawing things for myself. I got into graffiti. I got into abstractions, and I explored my cartooning a bit more, and then I got more into illustration. And I had no interest in graphic design because back then in the 80s and 90s, graphic design was just lettering and magazines and layouts and stuff like that. So I never wanted to even get into that. And my father was always telling me, well, if you want to make money, and you want to have a career in art, you're going to have to do that. But he supported me regardless, and I pursued my own art. And I think once I got to college is when I started having, my own art exhibits, and I started mingling with old friends of mine in the city, and we started networking, and I started to get small gigs doing logo work and illustration work, and it just little by little started evolving, and this thing that I always thought of as a natural hobby or a natural, not even a hobby, it was just a natural thing that I do. You know what I mean? I never even thought of it as a hobby because I wouldn't even imagine. For me, a hobby is collecting stamps or something, or collecting coins. Like, it's not that. This is something that you make because you're alive and you just start making things. So I think once I got through college, I started making money doing art is when I realized, it dawned on me that it's a career. And little by little, I got into computers, and I found my niche, as an art director and working in the fashion industry. And it's little by little, I became the person my father always said I should have become. I became that graphic designer.
Your father's always right.
Father's always right. And I became that graphic designer. But to this day, I still get inspiration from my father and from my whole family, my extended family as well. My cousin, I have a cousin in Florida, cousin Terry, T-Rex. He's graffiti artist as well, and he designs sneakers. Yeah. And he's an amazing designer. He's got an amazing work ethic. He's definitely a very motivated designer. He takes a lot of pride in his designs, his sneaker designs. And he's made a career out of it. I mean,
which is great.
Yeah, he's doing very well. So he's somebody else that growing up, me and him, we would draw, we would sketch, we would do stuff, and I don't think we ever said to ourselves, yeah, when we grow up, we're going to be artists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like it just happened.
It just happens. You
don't even know where you're going to end up, but you just grew up and fill yourself with all these people that are doing all this stuff, and you're like, okay, so I guess I'm going to do it with you, and then, I don't know, we'll see.
It was a funny thing growing up that I lived some time in Florida with my cousin. He was drawing, I was drawing, like just little kids drawing with pencils and crayons. Then high school came. I ended up doing graffiti. I find out that he's also doing graffiti at the same time. So he's also doing graffiti in Florida, and I'm doing graffiti in New York. And this was not coordinated. Right. And then later on in life, I find out I'm a graphic designer designing clothing, and he's designing clothing too. And I was like, okay. So I guess we're just following the same path, and this is not a coincidence. Yeah. So yeah, I think your family can help steer you. They can help inspire you. I
Definitely.
think friends as well. I have a lot of friends. Along the way, I've made a lot of friends that
I
are
was
artists.
going there too.
Yeah,
that
go for it.
Even I'm taking a class in school. I know this is not related, but it's work and life communication basically. And we were talking about like who you consider your family, and even friends are your family, right? So even growing up with friends and everything, and you see them, let's say doing music or dancing or doing all these things, you're like, oh well, so maybe if I do this thing, you know, I can be more connected with this person or whatever. But another thing I was going to say is like how Chris was saying, how Cortez was saying.
It's all right. They know me. People know me.
No, so how things connect that you don't even know when you're doing it as a little kid, how it's gonna help you once you grow up. So, right when I was around 10 or 11, I think, I was doing I was being a trovadora at my school. I didn't know that when I graduated from high school, going to the University of Puerto Rico, I was going to have the opportunity to be part of a cultural music group in the university that was going to pay for my tuition, and that I was going to have so many amazing friends, which helped me to develop more my creativity in music and singing, because that was another thing. Like in my house, it was cool, but I didn't feel really comfortable doing it, like singing loudly or practicing a lot. No, I always felt more comfortable doing it like in my singing classes, or with my friends at the university, or with my friends at school. So that's why I also think that it's not only your family, immediate family, the family that you live with, but the people that you, through with the years, right, you develop such a relationship that you think that they're your family and they're part of your family, and they can help you also develop your artistic creativity and everything. So that happened, right? Because of the experience I had growing up, I knew this guy from school, right? And when I got to university, he told me, hey, you should be part of the Conjunto Criollo, which was the music group in the university. And I wasn't sure about it, because I wasn't singing that style for a while. So when I got there, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But then they taught me, and they were very open to me. And then I developed myself even more, because we had shows, we have live shows, and we all as a group like helped each other grow. So yeah.
I mean, something else that I think this makes me think of this conversation is when we were doing the live stream. So this podcast is called Cortesnyc Livestream. This is the next evolution of this show, which it started as a live stream on livestream.com, where we would do a 4-hour session at night.
Yeah.
I would be drawing, we would be with a chat room talking, having conversations, and playing music and all these kind of things. And that also was inspiring, and also an extension of, I guess, growing up in a family of artists, where we would have my mother tuning into the show.
Yeah, that's true.
My cousin coming on to the show, or tuning into the show, whatever. You know, we would have new friends that we would develop come on to the show or join into the chat room. We would have people on Instagram and on Facebook, sharing their stories, and I think that was another evolution. That, thank God for the internets, but that gave us that opportunity to also find new inspirations and new connections.
Definitely.
A lot of the people that were participating in the live stream, some of the people, they were like trying to be artists as well, exploring their creativity. Some of them were doing it part-time, some of them were actually full-time artists, but you could tell that some of them would come staying up late with us, just to like find that motivation to keep drawing and to keep exploring their art. I think there was one time one of the listeners commented that they grew up listening or watching my videos on YouTube or whatever, and my YouTube channel, youtube.com/CortesNYC, I have videos where I'm drawing step by step. I did these videos maybe now 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, I guess. And I didn't realize that there would be younger people that would grow up maybe using these videos as their inspiration and their connection to creativity. And I think that was also interesting. This internet family that we developed, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, aside from that, I guess the last point that I would bring up here is, what do you do if you're growing up in a family that isn't creative? What would you do?
And maybe you are developing your creativity with the time, right? Like, I don't know, you get into a group in school. I think it's kind of like what happened to me, because even though it's difficult, because my family growing up, they were really into music, really into dancing, really into everything, but I guess I didn't saw it, or until now, as part of my development as a creative, or my development as a singer, right? So I guess that going back to growing up in a family that is not creative, in
quotes,
in quotes,
in air quotes,
in air quotes, I guess that maybe think about those times. Maybe think about the times that you were just being like having a family time, and maybe think about the times when, I don't know, your mom was doing something with her hands, or your dad was doing something that is not related to work. And maybe
I mean, even like I said, even storytelling.
Yeah,
even storytelling or comedy. I mean, some people's parents, like some people's fathers, are hilarious.
Exactly.
They tell great jokes. They're great storytellers. Any reunion and they come together. Like I had my stepfather, rest in peace. When we talk about him, he had a temper and everything, but everybody only remembers his creative storytelling. He was such a great personality. You would go to his house and he would hold court and he would tell these stories and make you laugh, and he would listen carefully to what you said and try to figure out how to make a story out of that. If you said something, he would listen and he would try to invent how can he make that funny. And that's a talent as well. I think if you're growing up in a family, I mean, especially if you're in a cultural family,
definitely
there is creativity all around you. You just have to look. Maybe you might be taking it something that they're doing for granted, and you might not be seeing it as creativity, but it's all around you, especially in a cultural family, whether it's Latino or Indian or I don't know, Asian, other family, or even American. If you're in an American family that's very cultural and rooted in some sort of cultural background, it's all around you. That was exactly my point. That maybe you will think that, oh my God, I'm the only one creating stuff because I'm doing such different things. But maybe if you look closely, you can see that everything that you have in your mind came from everybody around you. And all the experiences that you had growing up help you to be the person that you are now. If you liked our conversation and you want to add to it, we are really looking forward to your comments. So follow us on Instagram, Cortesnyc Livestream. You can hashtag for that section, #ArtLife. And you can also follow us on Facebook. Facebook is Cortesnyc Livestream. So now we go into our next section, which is Culture Talk. And Carla, for Culture Talk, this is more your section. You really, this is your baby. So what are we talking about in this section? So we're talking about stereotypes or cliches about Latino families. For example, that all Latino families, oh my God, they're so loud. They are. Every time they go to any place, they're always screaming to each other. They are. Well, no. Well, people think that they're fighting with each other because they're so passionate about every single thing that they're talking about. In our neighborhood, the loud ones are the Asians. They're the loud ones. Exactly. Even I right
in our neighborhood is full of Asian, and
It's
even
mostly our neighborhood. We're in Flushing, Queens,
Yeah.
and our neighborhood is mostly Korean, Chinese, Japanese.
but I've learned that the Chinese are the ones that are loud, and Koreans and Japanese, they're actually a little bit more like
Reserved.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I've learned that.
And in the Latin culture, who's the loud ones and who's the reserved ones?
I will say we all have our moments. I will say that for sure Puerto Ricans go to go to Harlem, go to the Bronx. Puerto Ricans are always loud. My mom, sometimes she can be so loud when she's laughing. Oh my God. Sometimes I know that one time that she was with you on the train and that she was laughing so loud and that I don't know.
Yeah, she can
But
be loud.
Yeah.
And I've been around enough Puerto Rican culture to see, especially New Yorkers.
Yeah.
They can be very loud.
Actually, I can be loud when I'm with my friends and my family and my circle, you know. But I have a friend that I didn't know she was that loud until then we met after a while here in New York, and I was like, wow, yeah, you are loud. And you are Puerto Rican, for sure. Yes, you are.
The same thing happens to me. For the most part, my father's pretty soft-spoken. My family's Colombian. My father's pretty much soft-spoken. My mother can get loud sometimes, but for the most part, she's soft-spoken.
Yeah.
But when we'll go to events, or you know what I mean, Colombian events or things like that, and then I see Colombians and I get to talk to other Colombians that might be from other parts of Colombia, and I realize, wow, they're very loud. And I'm reminded that yes, all Latino culture, we all have some aspect of our culture that is loud. Yeah. So I mean, it's a cliche, but there's some truth to it.
Yeah, there's some truth to it, but it's not like just because we're talking to you, it means that we're gonna be loud like that. No, it's more like with our circle, with the people that we know. So another stereotype that sometimes we get is like they all eat rice and beans. Oh, that's all they eat for dinner.
They do.
Rice and beans.
We do. We only eat rice and beans all day.
Yeah, and nothing else. And that's not necessarily true. I do like rice and beans a lot. I was raised with it. But here, actually in New York, I've become a little bit more creative in the kitchen, making more vegetables, salads, and stuff like that. So people can change, not necessarily because you eat rice and beans when you were growing up. When you maybe move to another place, you can change the way you eat.
All right. Well, I mean, to the rice and beans thing, I would say I grew up enjoying rice and beans, but not necessarily constantly eating it every day at home. I think if you go to a Colombian restaurant, you will get rice and beans.
Definitely, yeah.
I think most Latin restaurant, whether it's Mexican, Colombian, Ecuadorian,
yeah, they have
Puerto
rice
Rican,
and beans.
Dominican, there's going to be some form of rice and beans. So
Yeah.
that's I guess where the stereotype really comes in hard.
Yeah.
But I think at home, no, I don't really contribute to the rice and beans stereotype at home.
No, you don't.
I think I've kind of realized the modern thinking and kind of pulled back a little bit on the rice and beans.
Yeah.
I do think that Colombians eat weird things. I like to eat weird things. I like a lot of the pork rinds and the
tongue.
The cow tongue. I love cow tongue. The mondongos, the soups.
Oh no, I can't with mondongo. I'm not.
Morcilla.
Oh no.
I love morcilla.
Ew.
I'm sure my Latinos out there know what morcilla is, and
yes.
I like morcilla a lot.
No.
I know that you're Puerto Rican and you're
I'm
also
Puerto
half
Rican,
Dominican.
yeah.
And you like the mofongo.
Yeah, definitely. I like the mofongo. I like the mango. I like the salami.
What's mofongo?
So mofongo is green plantain. You fried it as if you were going to make tostones. And then you just use like a little bowl and mush it together with a little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic, and then you have your mofongo, which you can eat with pork, you can eat with chicken, with seafood, whatever you want.
All right. And so what's another stereotype besides the food and the loudness?
Well, another stereotype is that they all live together. They all have big families.
They do. They all have big families and they all live together.
And they all live together.
All these damn Latinos. Yeah, that's true.
Which I think that is not true here in the United States because of how difficult, well, because of how difficult it is. It cannot be, it might be not true in the majority of families in the United States because, let's say, extended family might be back in your country. Like if you're from Mexico, maybe you're here with your mom, dad, and then maybe your siblings, but grandparents are back in your country.
So what you're saying is from your perspective, because let's just so that the people understand, you were born and raised in Puerto Rico.
Right.
You came here already as a grown up.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, you understood that in Puerto Rico, the majority of what you saw was a lot of extended family living together.
Yeah.
You saw
like let's say
grandparents and
living with the daughter or son.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up seeing that. I'm one of those examples. I was born here in New York. My grandparents were back in Colombia, and my family here in New York was very small. Being in New York, it was just my brother, myself, my mom, my dad, and I had cousins in Florida, and they also had small nuclear families. They didn't have big extended families. Right. All my uncles were back in Colombia or some other area. Now I have uncles in Canada. So I didn't necessarily fit that stereotype. And now I'm thinking right now about people that I saw growing up, Latinos growing up here in New York, and I don't think they had grandparents either with them. I think the majority of them were just very small nuclear families. Yeah. Not a lot of cousins either.
What I think that is true is that maybe we care a little bit more about our elders. Like we want to take care of them. We don't want to send them just to a home, but we want them to feel as they're still part of the family. And I think that maybe that's still true. Even though I grew up in Puerto Rico and I lived with my grandparents and then my grandmother for a while. All my life, really. So I think that that's where maybe it comes, that stereotype from. Like, we really take care of them and we want them to be still part of our family. So another stereotype that I have is that maybe you think that all Latinos speak Spanish.
I did think that until you brought up some good points, and then and then I realized that that's a weird stereotype in my head.
So, right, if we think about the term Latino is only used outside of Latin America. So let's say you are from any country of Latin America.
Right. So let me just chime in. So the term Latino is not used in native countries, like let's say if you're in Venezuela or if you're in Ecuador, you're not going to really say Latino, you're going to say I'm Ecuadorian or I'm Venezuelan. Right. And it would be very strange to be an Ecuadorian, let's say, and be in Ecuador, living in Ecuador and not speak Spanish. That would be weird. Unusual, let's say. Or if you were in Peru or if you were in Bolivia. Right. Or if you were, and that you're there and you're not speaking Spanish, that would be kind of weird because that's your native tongue of your country. But let's say Latino, that term is used here in the United States, in North America, outside of Latin America, in North America. So here, yes, if you're a Latino family, meaning that you're outside of a Latin country, you're in a North American country or a non-Spanish speaking country, then probably you could be a family that doesn't speak Spanish. Yeah, because let's say you're a second... I didn't think about that one. Let's say you're a second generation Latino, let's say, or Colombian, if we want to be specific, right? You're a second generation family of Colombian, and now you feel yourself as a Latino because you connect with anybody that is from Latin America. And maybe you don't know Spanish, but you don't know how to speak, but you understand Spanish. That doesn't mean that you are less Latino. That means if you still can connect with your roots, either from Colombia or from Latin America, or from Puerto Rico. Or from Puerto Rico, of course. That can still that still makes you a Latino if you feel it like that's how you want to be called or that's how you want to be perceived. Well, I think that would be a different conversation. That would probably be another topic for another episode. But Yeah, I think there's multiple things that make you Latino, not just that you speak Spanish. I'm sure there's other cultural elements
Right.
that make you Latino. So I guess we
Yeah.
could explore that in another conversation.
Definitely. So another stereotype is that we don't all like spicy food. Just because in Mexican restaurants they eat tacos and they have jalapenos and they have spicy sauce, that doesn't mean that we all like spicy food. It's not in all our cultures.
I grew up with a little bit of spicy food, but yeah, no, not. I would agree with that. That's a big cliche.
Yeah.
Colombian food, for the most part, is not really spicy.
No,
Puerto Rican food,
it's not really spicy. Just in morcilla, I think I've heard that there's a little bit spicy.
You wanted me to teach you, right? This is street reality.
So if you like that section, you like that conversation, remember hashtag Culture Talk. Remember Instagram is Cortesnyc Livestream. And now, vamos a hablar español.
Sí, tenemos algunas palabritas para que aprendas español. So we have some words that if you are a Latino that knows Spanish, maybe you can remember and you can practice. And then if you are a non-Spanish speaker, maybe you can learn these words and it can be more comfortable for you to communicate with other Spanish speakers.
Yeah, we in this section, we're basically throwing out some translations, some common words that you should know. Not so much to teach you an in-depth advanced Spanish. We picked some
No.
simple words.
Yeah. And some words related to what we talked about before in the podcast. So we just wanted for you to know some keywords of what we have talked about.
So
in
that
this
we can
podcast.
get you speaking Spanish.
Yes.
Dale.
Okay, so the first one is familia.
What?
Yes. Familia means family.
And so does Mohana.
Ohana. Oh.
Okay, but yes.
No, but familia means family, and I think that one is pretty easy because the translation is pretty straightforward, right?
And pretty common. I think people are familiar with that one that in movies and whatever.
Right. Familia.
Yeah. All right, next one.
The next one is artista.
What?
Yeah, so artista means artist,
Very
which
simple.
is also very simple. Yeah. And then going to the next one is padre.
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 Some people might.
No, padre.
Well, that's the Americans. They say
Okay,
Padres. Like
but
there's a sports
padre.
team called the baseball team called Padres.
Oh, come on.
All right. So what is Padre?
So padre means father
Okay.
or dad. We also have the word madre, very similar to padre, and it means mom.
And madre, I think of very common if you've traveled to Barcelona. No, that's not. Where do they say madre? Madre sagrada.
Madre Sagrada.
Yeah. No, I'm confusing it with something else. Familia sagrada.
La Sagrada Familia.
La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's the church. That's
All
the
right,
church
no.
over there.
All right. So madre. Madre means mother.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we also have hijo.
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 Hijo. No. Hijo.
Hijo. So what does
Which
hijo
means
mean?
son.
Hijo means son, like child.
And then if you just change the last letter of that word, you have hija, which means daughter.
Oh, hijo is my son,
Yeah.
and hija is my daughter.
Yeah. That's so easy.
I'm speaking
right?
Spanish.
You are speaking Spanish. And then now we're gonna go into like the more social words that we use. Let's say if you just met somebody, or maybe if you're in a bar drinking with somebody, these are words that are gonna help you.
I need those.
You do, yeah. So obviously hola.
Hola.
I think that one everybody knows. Come on, everybody
Hola.
has. Yeah.
Hola.
Hola. Hello. Hola.
Yeah.
Then we have.
So hola means hello.
Yeah.
Literally, okay.
Then we have ¿Cómo te llamas? This one is not just one word, it's more like a phrase because it has 3 words on it. So it means what's your name?
Okay. ¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Very good.
Okay? And then let's say that you are with somebody outside and it's in the morning and you want to eat breakfast. So you're going to say, let's eat desayuno. Desayuno.
Desayuno.
Desayuno.
Like
Breakfast.
Juno, like the movie Juno.
Like the movie Juno, yeah.
Desayuno, okay.
Breakfast. And then let's say you want to eat lunch. Is almuerzo. Almuerzo.
Almuerzo is lunch?
Almuerzo is lunch.
So when it's lunchtime, it's tiempo del almuerzo.
Tiempo de almuerzo. Sí,
Oh,
tiempo
nice.
de almorzar. And then let's say you want to eat dinner. So you'll say, vamos a comer la cena. Dinner means cena or comida, because in some places it might be comida just because that's the way they call it.
Yeah, I was going to say, cena is one that wasn't so common for me. They would just say, vamos a la comida, o vamos a comer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, vamos a hacer de comida, and we meant dinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not correct. The correct way is cena.
So dinner, cena.
All right.
And then one last one, two last ones, because we need them. Cerveza.
What? As I'm drinking right now.
Of course. Cerveza, if you're going to a bar, you gotta offer the ladies a cerveza, which is a beer. So cerveza means beer. And another one that I have in my mind is buen provecho, which there's not really a translation in English, but in Spanish it's so common for us when we're eating, before we start eating, to tell the other person buen provecho, which means like have a good meal. Like enjoy your meal.
It's almost like a bon appetit.
Almost like a bon appetit. But I think
French,
that
bon appetit.
like it's so common in Latino countries, in Latino communities, just say buen provecho, and you're gonna impress them.
See, that one's a little tough, or was a little tough for me to get into, because I didn't really hear it growing up, and also the fact that I grew up in New York, it's not very common that people will say, enjoy your meal.
Exactly. No,
like
it's not.
when we eat, we just go, all right, time to eat.
Exactly.
And you just start eating. Like you just make sure everybody has their food, and you're like, all right, time to eat.
Yeah.
So I think that's specific to Latin culture.
Yeah, but it is a nice phrase. I like it. I miss it. Like I don't say it anymore, but it's something that is nice from our culture. It's a nice phrase.
I like that.
Yep.
All right, so there you have it. You have some Spanish words for you guys to practice.
There's no excuse.
There's no excuse for not speaking some Spanish. All right? Well, there you have it. Wrapped up episode 1 of Cortesnyc Livestream, the podcast. This is a bi-weekly podcast streaming out of New York with your host, myself, Cortesnyc, and also
Carla de Puerto Rico.
And our next episode, episode 2, is going to be titled Status. On the first section, Art Life, we'll be talking about what does success mean to you? When do you know that you've reached that status? Is it money? Is it fame? What is it?
Yeah. And we're also going to be talking on our hashtag Culture Talk about how is the Latino experience presented in TV shows in the US. We're going to be talking about different things that we see that might be problematic or that might be true.
And as always, we'll be hablando español at the end.
Of course.
Giving you more Spanish to English words that you guys can practice.
Yeah.
Just want to thank everybody who tuned in. This is the rebirth of the Cortesnyc Livestream, and we're very excited to bring this back to you guys.
Yeah, we hope you will enjoy it. And also, if you have any art, if you draw anything while listening, or maybe you have something that you have done before, just hashtag Cortesnyc Livestream and we can check it out.
Yep. And as this show evolves and as the episodes continue, we'll try to incorporate more of the listeners' artwork or some of their feedback into the show. So we look forward to that.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.